Hello and welcome everybody, I am OneProudBavarian and we're here to talk about something that is coming out very soon. The very first DLC for EU5, Fate of the Phoenix, will release on the 6th of May, so roughly 6 months after the game released in full. But, and this might surprise you, I'm not actually here to tell you about that DLC. Rather, I want to talk to you about the other things that they are changing. For me personally, I have fallen off EU5 for quite some time, but I have been following progress because, well, I want to get back on it. The game is getting a massive overhaul to a whole bunch of its systems with the release of the DLC in the free patch. So instead of telling you about content for the Byzantines that might not bring you back to the game to begin with because, well, some other stuff bothered you, I want to tell you about the greatest of changes that they are making to the game whether you own the DLC or not. And I can already tell you right now that, yeah, indeed, a lot of the things that I'm seeing there will be bringing me back to the game. We have massive diplomacy, trade, and of course economy changes that will impact your gameplay in such a way that if you were put off earlier, well, it might just be time for you to come back as well. In this video, I will be telling you only about the most important elements coming with 1.2, and on the channel going forward, we're going to have a review for 1.2 and the DLC, we're going to have several playthroughs, and we're going to evaluate whether the game can bring me and maybe even you back for good. First one that I want to talk about with you is the change to dynamic historical events. You might know them, they pop up randomly, you don't really know why, when or how, and then there they are. These events primarily offer flavor, although in some cases, like for England for example, they are also what locks away Anglicanism. Previously, if you wanted to know what to do to receive one of these events, you would have to go into the script of the game. With 1.2, you actually see exactly what events are available to you, when they are available to you, and what you need to do to get them. I'm gonna be honest with you, I think this is obviously a fantastic step, but the reality is, at least in my book, that DHEs, as you call them, are not really the best form of content. You get an event and that is about it. Half the time, it's just flavor text and a minor modifier. When I brought up on Twitter that this is what they're doing now, somebody even said, well, what if we could see them and they were aligned in the shape of a tree? Wouldn't that be funny? And I have to say, yeah, kind of. I get where you're getting at there, so if you're hoping for missions or for even journal entries like in Victoria 3, then DHEs still aren't that. But they are a lot more accessible, so probably a lot more worth your time, since you're not just gonna miss out on content randomly. Now besides this, on the miscellaneous level right away I want to tell you about revolts as well. They have been reworked so that overlords can finally join revolts in their vessels. But way more importantly on that topic, we are now looking at a situation where your estates are only giving revolt movements as much money as there are actually pops in the movement. In the past, when you conquered new territory, cultures or religions that were foreign and not accepted to your country would virtually always rebel because your estates would throw money at them. This is why, if you didn't know this, you get a ton of micro-rebellions right now. With 1.2, that is going to be a thing of the past. In the future, you are probably looking at virtually always getting meaningful revolts or none, since your estates won't go up to 2 rebels, give them $1 trillion and say, go die in a fight. Now moving forward, a lot more interesting and a lot more all-encompassing are the changes to diplomacy. In fact, these changes are the main reason that I will be back in the game. A while ago, on the forum, I made a thread discussing why diplomacy in EU5 feels awful. I compared it to all the other games, and yeah, my verdict really can't be anything else. EU5 doesn't have AI attitude. Every country blobs in a circle. You can even see it in the Conquer Desire, or if you just play a really long game. And ultimately, you don't even have AI strategies that blob in a way that, well, I guess is aesthetically pleasing. Nobody consolidates regions, they just blob randomly, because why wouldn't they? Where other games have AI attitudes, AI conquest plans that consolidate reasons, and AI personalities, EU5 had none of these things. Diplomacy truly felt just like a board game, which is a shame because EU5 is so much more than that. You can read my thread, I will probably link it in the description as well, but the short of it is that the entire system is just lackluster. All of this changes now. We get AI disposition, better AI conquest logic, and AI personality. Let's start with AI conquest logic, because we already see this exposed in the game. AI conquest logic does exactly what it describes. We can see what the AI desires to conquer in terms of locations. And more often than not, if we take a look at it in the current version of the game, it is a straight circle around your capital. The reason for this is that the AI believes this to be the only locations that really matter, as nowhere else they can get any control. Now, with local governors and vassals, that is obviously not the case. This didn't only produce really ugly round blobs, but But it also made it so that a big AI like the Mamluks would never blob, because nothing is reachable, even though of course they could hand it over to vassals. This has now finally been changed. As you can see right here in the screenshot, Castile, while still saying, hey, I could administer these Portuguese territories quite well, actually wants to conquer what makes up modern-day Spain. So clearly, regional consolidation, maybe cultures, maybe religion, all that stuff seems to now play a role. We don't know the details, but I can tell you that no matter what, it should be better. I hope that situations here are also impacted and will test it thoroughly in my time with the new DLC whenever I get access to it. One of the sticking points for me here, for example, was that France never really ended the 100 Years' War because they preferred taking Kent, since they can administer it, over taking Aquitaine, but they need Aquitaine to end the 100 Years' War. All of this was extremely silly. If we finally get an AI that actually goes ahead and conquers in a somewhat meaningful way, yeah, that would be absolutely fantastic. Now, what is also fantastic is AI disposition. This describes essentially the attitude that the AI holds towards specific countries. I want to highlight here that the dispositions that we know exist are indifferent, wary, rivals, covets, and planning war as well as alarmed. All of these are either neutral or hostile. In most other games, like Victoria 3 or for example EU4, you also have positive AI dispositions. But even if this isn't an all-encompassing disposition, but instead simply shows whether an AI wants to harm you and whether it is to conquer or to just destroy you, this is a massive step forward, because until now we had nothing. Where previously, whatever the AI did was pretty random since we only had their opinion rather than their intentions, so where they want to bring the opinion, we can now see what the ambitions of a country are and actually plan accordingly. This is a fantastic change. I would assume that essentially the Conquest Desire is where things start, then they translate into the AI disposition, and that of course continues then into actual wars or making new alliances. But that isn't all yet when it comes to diplomacy. This is actually a triple threat match. We also get AI personality, something that has been sorely missing. Here, we're going to get the types aggressive, expansionist, defensive, cautious, opportunistic, isolationist, and friendly. These will make it so that there is now a unified AI character type, and we can actually see who we're dealing with. All games basically have them these days, because they are really important. If an AI is more aggressive, which they already were, there were character modifiers to begin with, but you can't see it, are they really aggressive? Not really, right? What I really like about this actually is that by default, historically aggressive and expansive countries, for example, get those personalities assigned as well. But there is also a setting that allows you to randomize the AI personality going forward. I will definitely be using this because I think a new ruler shaking things up means that the game won't just feel like I have always the same enemies and friends. Maybe I can now actually shift opinions and make new allies where previously I had to fight them to the death. Now, my verdict on all of this is that these are massive steps forward. This for me will make the game playable. I know, people don't like people saying that, oh, the game is playable, it's on Steam, isn't it? Yeah, sure, but it's not something that I want to play unless I see the AI behave in a believable and interesting way. There are still ways to go. For example, like I said, AI disposition could also go into the positives. Not to mention that AI personality largely are modifiers to exact behaviors. I would love it if AI personality also came with different strategies. For example, if we look at Victoria 3, their equivalent to AI personality, so AI strategies, also comes with different potential war goals. One AI strategy might lead them down a road where they want to vassalize others, while another makes them want to conquer them. I would like to see these changes as well, so that we can also get positive ones, like, I don't know, Castile for example wanting to appease and ultimately marry Aragon, rather than always conquering them. But those are steps for the future. What we got right here already would be enough for me to come back and actually have a good time. I just really cannot live with everybody blobbing in a circle and that's it. What's the difference between Bohemia or Bavaria blobbing if both of them are just circles? There really isn't any. Now, moving on from diplomacy, there are a whole bunch of changes also here to peace deals and vassal spam, but these are really just changes to the meta, and I'll be honest with you, they don't really matter. 6-7. If you like the game, then you probably were super aware of the meta anyway. If you didn't and you stopped playing a while ago, or you just never played it, you aren't even aware of the meta, so who cares? What you should be caring about though are the changes to the economy, because they will actually change how you play and how engaged you are. The changes in the economy have one goal, and that is that specialization plays a bigger role. Where currently the game largely feels like Victoria 3 in 1.0, by which I mean to say that everybody can be autark, everybody is producing everything, They are now saying, hey, we want you to have an economy that is specialized, so that you have a very clear advantage over others and they have an advantage over you in other things. This starts with urban rights. You can now ensure that certain cities and towns will be better at producing something than other cities and towns. This means they are specialized and become a big boon. If we think about this, this also means that if those goods are ever super cheap that they are producing, these particular towns will fare much worse in your realm than others. Where previously every town basically had the same setup because, well, it is all profitable, all of a sudden there will be the potential to see some divergence in how each individual town in your country is doing. Now, accompanying this, they are also adding trade orders. This is a comfortable way of interacting with trade, which is to say, not really interacting with it at all. You can tell the AI what kind of good you want in your market and the AI takes care of the rest. This means you can specialize and lock yourself into a direction of specialization without needing to micromanage producing every single item or ensuring that every market is trading with you. Instead, the AI will use the trade capacity as it needs it. And once you've succeeded and you've built up your town into a city, you can now go even one step further. They are introducing the location rank of Megalopolis, which does exactly what it says on the tin. You will be building this and then you just have an urban nightmare that maybe is producing a ton of silk. Beautiful stuff here. Now, way more importantly than megalopolises, I'm gonna be honest with you, fine feature, but who cares, are the changes that they've made to RGOs. RGOs, so the resource gathering operations from which you get basic resources, have always been a bit of a no-brainer. I don't think that this is going to change too much right now, but the reality is they always make money. They have now, however, made a big difference on how much money they are making and how expensive they are. The more expensive the base price of a good is, so for example pepper will of course be more expensive, the more expensive will the RGO actually be. This means you can get a much bigger economy by building other, cheaper and more common RGOs, but obviously your income from them won't actually be that significant. This means that you will have to commit to certain specialized RGOs that yet again supports you specializing your entire economy. The entire gameplay loop here now is leaning into a direction of saying, hey, we want you to be one cog in the machine rather than just running the entire thing by yourself. Additionally, and fitting the theme of everything you've heard so far about the economy, they are also changing the basic setup in 1337, both related to estate buildings, but also general production and town charters. This means you will already find a much more specialized economy as you start the game. This should make it so that a country like England will fundamentally play different from Spain just because they already are specialized in different things. Now, to top it all off on this level before we move on from the pure economy, they've also made it so that over the centuries and over the ages, you are going to see much more significant shifts that are scripted and essentially will happen no matter what in demand. As a quick conclusion, for me, these economy changes are great as well. What we're looking at here is hopefully a big step to make it so that playing in England and needing to focus on wool and cooperation, for example, with Flanders, which was so important historically speaking, and one of the fundamental drivers of why Flanders was quite receptive to English aggression in France, is a dynamic that I'm looking forward to. Now, another dynamic that is definitely worth checking out is the change to population growth. Not only are we specializing when it comes to the economy, but we also have to specialize fundamentally because we just won't have that many smart people around. What has been done here is that population growth has been changed fundamentally. In the past, all of it originated from the peasants. This meant that virtually every pop was created from peasants and then would promote into whatever pop was needed. For example, into a burger, if you had a corresponding building. That is no longer going to be the case. Promotion has been dialed down drastically. Every single pop type now has its own growth rate, which, if you think about it, now means if you build a lot of urban buildings without any urban population, you will get absolutely nothing out of it, because you can't really teach a peasant a new trick. It's gonna take a whole lot longer. This means you need to dedicate yourself to, for example, prolonged urbanization. Or if you think that you don't need to do this because it creates an unwilling and aggressive part of your society, well, maybe you want everybody to remain a peasant. Hopefully, this will mean that the opportunity cost introduced this way, since you can't do everything wherever you are, will create a different society by the year 1500 or 1600, depending on whether you are in, for example, Russia or in England. A secondary effect that is really cool here is that when there are more jobs than there are individuals, so if you build too much and nobody can work it because the peasants can't promote that quickly, enfranchisement also goes up, weakening your nobility and ensuring that, yeah, obviously the power here rests with the laborers. Now, connecting to all of the things that we talked about so far are also the trade changes that have been made. I already told you about trade orders, of course, but another important change here is the fact that the trade system no longer hard locks you from accessing faraway markets. Instead, there will now be an, of course, increasingly scaling cost that comes with you trading with somebody far away. In the past, when you got a trade port in India, it would be virtually impossible for you to actually bring pepper, cloves, and so on home, because you would have to jump into several markets. This is no longer the case. You can now trade, but it comes at a big trade capacity. This is, because it is a luxury good that you are trading here, of course, probably still worth it, but you can make it easier on you if you have maritime presence in the locations that the trade route travels through. So, in short, running your overseas empire just became a lot more interesting and a lot less annoying to run. There are a ton of other changes in here, including 2,000 bug fixes. They also did, for example, split military units between light and heavy. But to be honest, this isn't gonna rock your world. I hope that it's going to make the military system more interesting, but the reality is that I think only very few people dropped or didn't buy EU5 because of its military system. It's not Victoria 3. They're also adding movements, which is a new way of ideas to spread. For example, Hellenism works this way in the upcoming Byzantine DLC, where pops that fulfill certain requirements will adopt the ideology as it spreads over the land. But it's not integrated into anything else. They said that they might use it for the Reformation later on, but it's not currently in the game, so this one also won't really blow your mind. The reality here is that the changes to trade, econ, and the AI should make it much more fun to build an empire. All of a sudden, your competitors aren't just nonsensical blob circles, they are actual empires. All of a sudden, you're looking at a situation where you are specializing your economy and want to specialize the economy elsewhere. Now that you can bring back the goods from India, you can actually make sure that India itself is specialized as well. For me personally, I'll admit it, the AI changes to diplomacy are the biggest bangers, because this makes it so that I'm interacting with something that is just more than just a board game player. Let me know whether this is what you were hoping for as well, and whether it will bring you back, because, yeah, I don't know. Honestly, obviously, there's still a lot more work to be done. EU5 is a massive game, and Johan, like he said himself, wants to work on it until the end of days, which is a really cool thing. I'm looking forward to that. But this right here, for now, for me personally, is exactly what I needed. Obviously, I will let you know on the channel right here whether these things actually work the way and are as good as they seem to be once we actually have the DLC in our hands. For now, let me know what you think, whether this will pull you back in, or if not, what else would. I will leave you right here, and I'll see you later, alligator.